All right, now that we're good to go. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
What? I can't hear you. Good afternoon. I spent many years going ahead and working for live bands without wearing ear protection, so I got a little bit of tinnitus there. So, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
There we go. Welcome to my talk. My name is Michael Kavka. This is about the SMB security gap. How many people here know what an SMB is? What size we're talking about? What size do you say? What size? How many employees? Probably under 500. Yeah, that's about right. I have 17 years experience in the small medium business market, mostly small. And when I say small, I mean small. Anybody here ever do SMB consulting? One person. All right. I have your standard, substandard, IT certifications, Microsoft, CompTIA, blah, 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 yakety smackety that everybody ignores anyways. You can reach me via Twitter at Silicon Shecky, or you can visit my website, Silicon Shecky. Why Silicon Shecky? Somebody had to be, and I drew the short straw. All right. Small businesses are 80% of the companies under 10 employees. Anybody here, say, have under 100 employees that they work with? A couple of people? Why is under 10 employees so important? Why so many of them? Well, if you start thinking about it from a logical standpoint, most of your law firms, your accounting firms, your mom and pop businesses, how many employees do you think they have? I deal with a lot of small law firms. Most of them are 10 to 15 people. Some maybe 20. A lot of them, 5 people, 6 people, 7 people, 2 partners, a couple of secretaries, and a small business server. All right. If you take a look here and compare it to the 5,000 plus, there's 12 billion, almost 13 billion businesses that are, there's 1,927, I'm looking at the wrong side. There's 1,927 firms that are over 5,000. If you add up from 0 to 20, you're talking 5 million, 5.5 million basically, firms. That's a lot of firms there. Now, these firms are the firms that might go ahead and vend. They might go ahead and come in to clean. They could be coming in to do presentations on the network, what have not. They're also the ones that have no IT department. Maybe they have somebody that comes in and does some consulting. Maybe, if you're lucky. And maybe that consultant knows a little bit of something about security. That's why this is so important. The connections, it's not the business themselves, it's the connections those businesses have. Think of how many times those businesses have to deal with larger sized businesses and where those larger sized businesses are connected to. A hacker's going to always look for that weakest link. 9 times out of 10, that weakest link is going to be something like this. I never heard what the size of the HVAC was that went ahead and caused the whole breach over at Target, but I'll bet you it was a hell of a lot smaller than Target was. So, when you're dealing with small businesses, you're dealing usually directly with the owner. And there's a few different owner types I've found over the years. There's the owner type that just says, just make it work, I don't give a crap. Okay, so you go ahead, you do the stuff, and he goes, it's going to cost me what? You have your owners that have, well, a friend of mine or a relative of mine works in the IT field, doing maybe a little bit of web design or this, or has a little bit of IT knowledge, and they said this. I run into that a lot. Everybody that knows somebody that does a little something, whether they made their own blog, their own website, what have not, I know an IT guy. We all know that that's not really what the person's doing. They do something like that on the side for free. All of a sudden, you're talking about more security holes there. You've got some of the owners out there actually try to keep up and actually know a little bit about technology, and that's dangerous because they'll go in and they'll start changing all the settings on you. They will open up that security hole. They think they know what you don't know. No, that's not true. But the biggest section of it all, with 1 and 2, is the ones that are scared by the media. Now, there was a talk just before lunch in this room about media and Hollywood and how it portrays hackers. So I'm not going to delve into that. That subject's been covered. It's over. It's done with. All right. What you deal with here, though, is with these 80% of businesses, you're dealing with HIPAA. You're dealing with PCI, a lot of it. Your small doctor's offices, all HIPAA. Your insurance companies, if any of them deal with health insurance at all, they fall underneath some form of HIPAA. Your small businesses that you go to down the street here, the grocery store, the local grocery store, this, that, they have a computer in there, they're dealing with PCI. I'm a theater person. The community theater that I deal with, we just went ahead and put in online ticketing through a secondary company. We have to be PCI to that company. We have to, even though we don't store anything on there, we can still go ahead and be the cause of the breach. And if we're the cause of the breach, we're going to wind up closing down because we make nothing. It's community theater. All right? As a consultant in a small business, they're the jack of all trades, master of none. In a typical day, I deal with email, malware on a machine, setting up a network, looking at firewall logs. I run the gamut. And I also deal with IT internally for the company that I work for, which would still be considered an SMB. It's under 200 users, above 100. So between 100 to 200 users at my actual job. And then I'm consulting for these small businesses. When dealing with all of this, we hit that communication gap, though. When you talk to these owners, you go ahead and you say to them, well, you need to go ahead and have a firewall. Well, how much is it? Well, firewall is going to cost you $1,000. Why do I need that? I'm a small business. I have nothing that is needed. Why would I be a target? Well, I don't have anything. Well, you might not have trade secrets, but you're a hiding point to get to other businesses. You're a law firm. Do you have any larger clients? Well, yeah. Do you think those larger clients somebody might want to get into them? Well, maybe. Maybe one of my clients is Walmart. Maybe one of my clients is Hy-Vee. Who knows? They can go ahead and use that as a jump-off point. Maybe they just want to go ahead and use you to go ahead and launch attacks on other people, DDoS. Maybe they want to use your server, and I ran into this just earlier this year, for Bitcoin mining. A 6-year-old small business server, 2003 SBS server, was being used for, well, actually it was Primecoin, but it was mining Prime coins, and we were wondering why the heck the whole system was so slowed down. That's all they did with it. They didn't do any spamming, nothing like that, which is the other typical stuff that you would see, spamming, using you for identity theft. No, they just wanted to mine these Prime coins on a server that a single GPU from nowadays would go ahead and be faster than what that server is. So, who knows why they want to do that? But they do. There's always that possibility. All right? It slows production is the next big problem that we get with them. Well, if you set up security properly, it shouldn't. Everybody hates UAC on Windows. And when you're dealing with SMBs, you're not dealing with Linux. Maybe you're dealing with a few Macs, but 99% of what you're dealing with is Windows. And right now, 99% of what you're dealing with is Windows XP and trying to convince them to move on. But we'll get to that in a little bit. All right? But they worry about it slowing down production. The life expectancy of hardware software, we're seeing that right now with what's happened with Windows XP. Trying to convince people that, hey, you got to move forward to be secure. Everybody knows that XP is only so secure. Windows Vista was a little bit more secure. Windows 7 is a little bit more secure. Windows 8, they put in more security features into it. And it keeps increasing. And we keep falling behind the bad guys. But to get to that Windows 7 or that Windows 8, you're going to need newer hardware. Your 1 gig machine here that's running a Pentium 5, a straight Pentium or a Pentium Duo is not going to go ahead and run Windows 7 all that well. You're not going to be able to keep your system secure that way. Finally, and this was something I was actually just reading about this week, was security as an ROI selling point. These are the types of things that you have to go ahead and bring it on to the owner. I mean, think of it. If the owner can go ahead and market himself as being secure and following best security practices out there, don't you think that person's going to go ahead and get more money? Wouldn't you want to buy from somebody that you know is doing their best to go ahead and keep themselves secure? But this is something that we don't look at. We don't think of these things. We don't think of that small business like this. So, and unfortunately, my presentator's section is not working, so I don't know what my next slide is all the time. So what happens? We try and go ahead and tell them what we need to do. Well, we're tech people. All right? Have you ever tried to go ahead and explain to a non-tech person about security in non-tech terms in a way they can understand? I see a smile coming up right over here from this guy. All right? It's tough. It's difficult. And we get into our own mindset and we have our foibles, which are actual security protocol problems in our own right. Number one, we tend to think in only what we know. Be that Cisco, be that F5 networks, be that what have not. And a lot of us think of the highest end, the best of the best, and you don't think of the smaller side of things. You don't think of what can they afford. It comes back to that, it's going to cost what? I need to upgrade. You need to upgrade your systems. It's going to cost what? Sorry, SBS 2003 is no longer supported by Microsoft. You now have one huge security hole. You're no longer in HIPAA compliance. You're no longer in PCI compliance. You're going to have to pay this much. It costs what? We don't speak in terms that they understand. And we allow them to believe false thoughts, which goes back to stuff like Hollywood, NCIS, Skyfall, what you heard just a little while ago. These sorts of things are the problem. The problem isn't the hardware. The problem isn't the solution that we know will work. The problem is that we're not thinking what fits the client's budget. What fits the client's motive. All right? You're not going to get a small business of 10 people to purchase a $6,000 firewall, IPS unit, what have not. You're not going to get that. I don't care how hard you try. I've tried. You're not going to get it. So what do you do in that instance? Well, we have to find our ways through it. So we have to find our own solutions. Open source. Best thing about open source is a lot of it you can run on older hardware. That hardware that they've got to go ahead and get rid of, they don't have to get rid of it. You can turn it into a Snort IDS IPS system. You can turn it into a firewall. You can turn it into what you need to. The next thing is the Soho solutions. How many people here have used Cisco ASA before? You guys like the Cisco ASAs? How many people here have used Sonic Wall? You like the Sonic Walls? Would you recommend them? Somewhat, yes. I deal a lot with Sonic Walls. I deal a little bit with Cisco ASAs. I also deal with WatchGuards. You want to know the best thing about them besides the price point? I mean, I just priced one out for a potential client. I came up with $1,200. That's with a 3-year security services on it. That's an all-in-one solution. That's IPS, that's gateway antivirus, that's web filtering, that's content filtering, that's and not just content, but application filtering. That's being able to run logs. That's being able to go ahead and use NetFlow off of it. All for that one small price. Is it the best solution in the world? Not for everybody. Is it a good solution for a small business? Yes. Something like that is going to go ahead and give them that little bit extra security that might protect them from that major breach, or might slow down that major breach that could wipe them out. It's as simple as that. No security is awful. Any little bit of security that you can put onto a small business network works. The idea, though, is that you have to communicate to that owner, to the person that you're talking to there. They don't have a CIO. Some of them maybe have a CFO. But when you're dealing with these super smalls, you don't have that luxury. You got to deal with the owner. I was talking to an owner recently, and I was telling him what I'd seen and why, et cetera, and he goes, I don't care what happened to other people or other customers. I just want to know what's going to happen to me. Well, these are the things that could happen to you, and I want you to understand what happened. They lost money. They lost a good chunk of money because XYZ got in there. They lost productivity because somebody went ahead and clicked on something wrong. And clicking is evil. Anybody ever watch a normal user go to websites and click on stuff on the web? How many clicks do they like to use? They've gotten trained to double-click everything, huh? What happens? They click once with the high-speed now. By the time they click the second time, it's some sort of ad or some sort of pop-up that's been hijacked. Bango, malware. It's an easy solution to stop that. Keep training them and telling them only single-click in the web. And they still don't listen. I seriously spend so much time removing malware that I look at malware now and laugh at it. 90% of it, I laugh at it. Because I go into a machine, and with a couple of things I could say, okay, this is where it's coming from. That's it. My challenge is when the new malware, when the zero-day malware hits. That is my challenge. So, talking to them, allegories and examples. Well, I told you what happens sometimes with examples. One of my favorite things is comparing the internet as a hose and your data as a different size ball. If they've got a T1, which a lot of small businesses still think is a big deal, $450 for a T1. You can get much faster speeds through broadband for business, etc. nowadays for much less. But they think that it's a big deal. This goes along with upgrading everything. Data is the ball in the hose. How much water can you fit through the hose? How much can you fit through that pipe? And explaining to them what the sensationalism is. Let them know what you do for a living. Let them know that it's not all this glorious stuff that you see on the screen. I get asked by just about every single owner, why do people hack into businesses? Why do people create this malware? We all know how much money is made by the bad guys out there, right? We all know that it's in the billions, if not trillions of dollars that they make on the black market, on the black side of everything. All right? Why wouldn't they do it? Why would they go into there? Because they can. Because it's easy. This is where we fail. We don't fail with our technology. We don't fail with our techniques. We fail with our communication. We fail with dealing with that large percentage that anybody can go ahead and get into. So, the things that you got to do is, number one, be vigilant with any small business. Number two, you have to think outside of the box. You've got your comfort zone with what tools you like, etc., but don't be afraid to go ahead and go to tools that you don't normally like, to ideas that you normally wouldn't use. Yeah, it'd be great if they could have a single individual IDS and a single individual spam filter and a single individual firewall and a single individual content filter. You're not going to get that in a small business. You're going to need one of those SOHO devices. Realize what sort of connections, what sort of clientele and vendors they deal with. Realize that there's potential there for it to go ahead and escalate on through. So they get into the super small one and jump to one thing there, two things there, three things there, four things there. One of the first things a hacker does, if they're any good, is they do research on their target. So their target's up here, and they figure out and backtrace all the way down to your small business, your 3-person office. And again, some security is always going to be better than none. Whether it's a software firewall, whether it's a SOHO, whether it's going over with them once a quarter what's going on in the field and their best ways of going ahead and avoiding malware, avoiding this, avoiding getting hacked. What's the simple things that they can do? And with that, I basically come up to the point where I say, any questions? Come on, anything. Anything about small businesses, anything about these size businesses at all. If not, then I thank you all for listening. Hopefully you enjoyed. Oh, something in the back there. Yes. I told them basically it's part of their IT business. It's part of their business. IT is no longer a wanted thing. It's part of their infrastructure. It's a needed part of their business if they want to be competitive. The prices I charge, I take a look at what everybody else out there charges, and I don't go above that. It's a standard amount. I charge $150 an hour. I'll be straight up with you. That's it. I mean, straight up, $150 an hour. I give them a couple of options. I give them an option for doing a managed service plan where I can come out on site once a month, all covered underneath a straight monthly fee that covers everything. My site visits, all their patches, everything like that. Most of them don't want to go that because it costs too much money. But how do I justify it? That's how. Yes. I'm sorry, I could barely hear you there. Really, I'll talk with them about possibly using cloud services nowadays. Microsoft has basically killed off small business server. That was the go-to gold for these size businesses. Nowadays, it's basically business essentials, which for my clients is fine. That comes with 25 straight-up licenses, and then we go ahead and move them up to the cloud as far as Exchange. They go to Office 365. That's what I've been doing a lot of as far as that goes. Anybody else? All right. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day here at Bsides. If you want to talk to me, feel free to come on up. I promise I don't bite. Well, not hard anyways. Have a great day.